As it has been a good spring training for this Washington Nationals group, what has been the biggest surprise so far of spring training? May not be what you think it is.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, just make sure to check us out over on X. And also check us out over on YouTube. Search Locked On Nationals. And of course, wherever you get your podcasts, that is Locked On Nationals. Hit that subscriber button. And please leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever you want to do in your favor. Do you do that? I'll be happy. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about what Eddie Rosario can provide after he signed a minor league deal with the Nationals just last week. What can we expect? Of course, it's not the flashiest signing, but he's going to play a bigger role here than you may think. So we'll discuss that and kind of outline what Eddie Rosario's role could look like here in Washington, D.C., Also, it is a Monday. We're going to get back to the Nats stock report as we've gotten a few weeks under our belt of spring training. There are some good numbers. There are some bad numbers. I'll tell you what that is in the second segment of today's show. But we're going to start off with the hard-hitting analysis first, as what has been the biggest surprise of spring training up to 2024. I'll tell you that after we tell you guys about our sponsor of today's show. And of course, that sponsor is FanDuel. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So now we're going to get into it as what has been the biggest surprise so far of spring training. And really a lot of people would go and say, well, maybe it's the fact that Joey Gallo has been struggling. Not necessarily. That's not the biggest surprise in the world. I think we all kind of expected some struggles when it came to Joey Gallo, as that's why he signed here in Washington, D.C., is because he has not all been too great over the last few years. But also even beyond that, the starting pitching. Sometimes it's looked really good, but most of all, it's been a little bit inconsistent so far. You can look at the bullpen. There's a lot of bright, shining stars that we're definitely going to talk about in the Nats stock report coming up in the second segment, including some young guys. But the most surprising factor so far of spring training has been the young talent. And really, you could say, why are you so surprised about this? Well, kind of going into this season, not a lot of people were all too high on this Nationals farm system. Now, I'm not saying that the Nationals don't have any studs in them. They do at the top. They're very top heavy. That's what we've been covering. You've been seeing it with all the stars the Nationals do have, like Dylan Cruz, James Wood, and you can even throw Brady House in that category if it was up to me. But now with all that said, with all that behind us, it still wasn't something that a lot of people expected to see this spring training. You weren't really expecting to see some big breakout from James Wood. Last year, he was not all really himself when he got to Double-A. He was striking out a lot more than what he once was with San Diego, as well as early on in the season with Wilmington, and even then Dylan Cruz. People were kind of, not to say down on Dylan Cruz, but he was certainly going to be a top 10 prospect in baseball. But still, he struggled as well at the end of Double-A last year. There's a lot of different factors that going into spring training that some people weren't all too high on this Nationals team. But I think one thing has stayed put through this. The young talent that the Nationals have, C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray, guys already on the Major League roster, Keibert Ruiz, Luis Garcia at times, Dylan Cruz, all the young prospects that this Nationals team has, really the guys on the Major League roster as well, they've been impressive. Going around all the numbers, you could say that the Nationals maybe haven't been up to par as far as everyone as what you want to see. Maybe you want to see a little bit more from C.J. Abrams. Maybe you want to see more from Keibert Ruiz. But I think even beyond those guys, looking at what Dylan Cruz and James Wood in particular have done, and even Robert Hassel up before he got a little dinged up at camp, this has been an impressive showing for the young talent. And I think with Robert Hassel in particular, we can kind of start off with him. What he has shown is that not only is he going to be another hopefully big time prospect down the road, but I think this is someone that you can rely on. I don't think what he's doing in spring training against big league talent is something that we should really be all too surprised with. Just kind of taking a step back in the last year. This time last year, Robert Hassel was still very high on people's radars. You were expecting a pretty big bounce back season after not really doing too much. Once he got traded to Washington in the second half of 2022 there, he was not good. Under 800 OPS, it's not really what we expected. We expected a lot of extra base hits. We weren't getting that. The strikeouts were really piling up there. And then, of course, in 2023 last year, all hell kind of broke loose for Robert Hassel there as he was kind of coming back from a hamate injury in his hand there. But now going into this season, I think a lot of people are now going to be expecting a breakout from him. And if you were kind of wondering what he would do this spring training and kind of how he would get to that point, over the last few spring training games and over the last few weeks here, with all the people really hooting and hollering about Robert Hassel, I think it's safe to say that you can now rely on him being somewhat of a good prospect down the road. This is someone who you're going to rely on, probably be an everyday sort of outfielder. I think spring training and kind of what he has done against major league talent can kind of make you feel a little bit more comfortable about what the prospect Robert Hassel could be down the road. Now, it's going to take some time. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows here in Washington, D.C. There's going to be some trials and tribulations, but ultimately, you can count on Robert Hassel again. We haven't even discussed James Wood at this point in time. We've mentioned him, but even then, how can you not be encouraged with James Wood? Some people can even make the argument that James Wood should be on the opening day lineup, and if we're really being honest, is he one of the top 9 hitters in this lineup if you were to start day one? Most likely. But even then, what's the point of rushing it at this point? Yes, you could have James Wood start opening day and kind of have that reason to get an extra draft compensation down the line just to have James Wood in the majors for the entirety of 2024. But what does that pay the Nationals? What does that really do? Yes, it is a draft pick, but is that extra draft pick really worth kind of stunting maybe the growth of James Wood as a whole? Because whether we like it or not, this 2-week stretch that he's been on has been very good. You have to feel great about James Wood. But also, is it really in the best interest of James Wood and as well as the Nationals moving forward to start him on opening day? No, it really isn't. He could probably at this point start at AAA, even though he might start at AA for a few weeks, kind of get his feet under him a little bit, get a little wet, then jump up to AAA, and then who knows how long it'll take for him to get up to the majors, but it won't be that long, I can tell you that right now. And even then beyond that, Dylan Cruz, another guy who has flashed his leather in center field, covering a ton of ground, making a ton of web gem type of plays, and also not even to mention, he's starting to heat up a little bit at the plate. You have to feel good about these young guys. And maybe it's not the most surprising part about this Nationals team because, again, if you're a national pundit like Ken Rosenthal, you're not really talking about Luis Garcia. You're not really talking about Joey Gallo. You're talking about James Wood. You're talking about the young guys. That is what this team is going to be about in 2024. It's going to be, again, about opportunity and about these young prospects propelling themselves up into the majors, hopefully at some point this season. And it's going to happen. I think this spring training, you've seen the step-ups from James Wood. You've seen him mature with physically and as well as just overall baseball wisdom-wise. You've seen him gone first to third and the speed there. Robert Hassel, you've seen him take a step up. And Dylan Cruz, he's solidified knowing that this guy is going to be a safe prospect and is going to be a very good player up in the pros at some point in time. You have to feel good about that. And really, it's not even just these young prospects. It really isn't. You can even look at C.J. Abrams and the way that he's kind of carried himself throughout this time. He's even someone that you can rely on moving forward as well. Not just him. You can even count on maybe a Keibert Ruiz taking a step up this year. Maybe it's a Mackenzie Gore taking a step up this year. I think all these different things kind of going into this Nationals team makes you feel a little bit better about what's to come. Because again, I wasn't necessarily expecting these young guys to just come out here in spring training, not say dominate, but play very good baseball. Well, colored me shocked because that's what they have done. And I think that has kind of settled a lot of nerves amongst Nationals fans, kind of getting this trust back in the organization, in which Still has Mike Rizzo, who still conducted that 2019 World Series team. I think he could probably do it again. And you can see the talent and really this fruit tree is starting to blossom. And at some point in time, you're going to have apples growing off that tree. And I think it's not going to be all too long before we see that blossom right here in Washington, D.C. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there. But until then, we got a Locked On Nationals stock report here from yours truly. We'll discuss that. Who's been hot, who's been not, after we tell you guys about our good friends over at FanDuel. And guys, when you're just sitting there watching a game, a basketball game, when you have the college basketball tournament coming up here soon, you just want to put a little bit of money on the game. So when you do that, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. When you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, make sure to look up all the good plays. You can do a same game parlay. You can fade the Wizards, because all we know, the Wizards aren't too great. And of course, if you guys join today, you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Again, if you join today, new customers, you'll be able to get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, then it's FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And of course, guys, I want you to do this because you could fade the Wizards, maybe make a little money on them. They've won 2 straight, but they're not going to win 3 straight. I can tell you that right now. They haven't done that in what feels like years. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And of course, $150 in bonus with your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Now we get back into it as it is a national stock report time. And of course, if you're new to this program, first off, thank you. Second off, everydayers out there will know where we're getting at here. We do a stock up. We do 3 stock ups, 2 stock downs most of the time, unless the Nationals have played real poorly lately, but they haven't here. So we're going to get to 3 stock ups, 2 stock downs. So of course, we start off with the good. It is a stock up for one of the Nationals' better left-handed pitching prospects, Mitchell Parker. Mitchell Parker over the last few years has kind of gotten people's attention for the way that he has pitched over the last few years. Mitchell Parker, over the course of spring training, has 6 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, 0 earned runs, and a 0.33 whip in his 4 appearances here. Now, is he going to be a starting pitcher up in the majors? I don't necessarily know at this point. It's kind of tough to tell. But I think one thing is for sure is that you can kind of rely on this guy to maybe be something down the line. And we've talked about him a lot as he's had some up and down seasons. In 2022, he was relatively dominant in 24 starts, had a 2.88 ERA and 100 innings pitched on the nose, had 67 walks to 117 strikeouts in that season as well. This last year cut down dramatically on the walks at 124 innings pitched to only 61 walks and 150 strikeouts. Mitchell Parker has been really impressive. And again, only 24 years old, being drafted in the 5th round back in 2020. The Nationals, they've done well by themselves with Mitchell Parker, and I think you're starting to see this kind of blossom in spring training. He's going to be in the majors at some point this season. There's a reason as to why he's been giving so many appearances and so many opportunities down in spring training, and when he has gone in, he is making the most of it. He has gone against major league talent, and he has struck them out. He has gone against minor league talent, and he has dominated them as well. Mitchell Parker is officially on Washington Nationals fans' radars, and it's not by any reason necessarily. This is by something that he's just been really good so far, and he deserves some credit. He may not be the flashiest of names. He may not be your Cade Cavallis of the world, but Mitchell Parker has been really good. That's why he gets a stock up for this Nats stock report. Now let's get to a stock down for, of course, Trevor Williams. His last appearance, 3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, and 2 home runs. Where do we begin? Trevor Williams, I'm shocked about this, by the way. Totally shocked. If you're watching over on YouTube, you can see my face. I'm totally shocked by this. This is just something that, again, Trevor Williams, should he be in the rotation at this point? Probably not. Is he going to be in the rotation moving forward? He's going to start there. But still, you know what's coming. Now, here's the thing. Trevor Williams, whether we like it or not, he does have that leadership quality in him. He does actually kind of take these younger pitchers under him, similar to what Patrick Corbin does. But he also doesn't make the money that Patrick Corbin does. If you really want to start Patrick Corbin, fine. I get it. You're paying him $35 million this year. You better get something out of him. But Trevor Williams, on the other hand, only making a handful of millions this year. Is it really necessarily at this point to have him being a starting pitcher every 5 days? Because we all kind of know what's going to happen. Jackson Rutledge, someone's going to get bumped down the order and may not get those opportunities because of someone like Trevor Williams. So now you see this into fruition here and kind of seeing it through this microphone lens or whatever it is. It's just not good. Trevor Williams, stock down. Simple as that. Stock up. This may be a little bit controversial, but when the back's against the wall, you know who to call. It's Alex Call. Stock up for Alex Call. So far in his last 10 at-bats, he is 4 for 10. He's got a double. He's got a home run. He's got 5 RBIs, and 8 total bases as well. And his back against the wall because we all kind of see the writing on the wall for Alex Call. Eddie Rosario was just signed to a minor league deal. Jesse Winker is in this lineup as well at this point. Alex Call is probably going to be a DFA candidate moving forward just because of how really less room there is in the outfield than what there was at the beginning of spring training. You have Jesse Winker in there now. You've got Eddie Rosario in there now. Alex Call, he's going to have to really kind of ball out here in order to make this roster, in which you probably not really can count on that moving forward. I've always liked Alex Call. Again, I thought he was the scrappiest of the scrappy Nats last year. You kind of saw him play good defense at times. He had him hit that walk-off home run early on in the season. He had some really good starts there, especially down at Coors Field when that West Coast trip first happened in the first month of the season. But Alex Call, he's been really good so far in spring training. And again, there's been a lot of pressure on him. He knows that the time in DC is probably pretty limited with guys like James Wood, Dylan Cruz coming up, Robert Hassel, and even more down the line, Christian McCarroll. You got a lot of different guys that are going to be coming up making a difference this year. And Alex Call, while his future is probably not all too bright here in Washington, D.C., he's been really good. Maybe the Nationals try to trade him off for something, for a pack of baseballs, whatever it may be. Alex Call has been good. So he gets a stock up for kind of being the scrappy Nat that we all wanted him to be from day one. And that's what you're getting here in spring training down at West Palm Beach. Stock down for Luis Garcia. It has not been pretty for him. He's had times where you were like, oh, that home run he hit pretty far. You see him, his sweet swing. We all love his swing. We love his approach at times as well. Luis Garcia, when you think it clicks, it doesn't. Over the last few games, he had multiple errors on back-to-back plays, in which was just jarring to see. And also, multiple base running mistakes. Got picked off at first base in Sunday's action. What are we doing here? This is not year one for Luis Garcia anymore. And I think David Martinez has said it best. He is not happy with Luis Garcia as the way that he has been performing, and really in which the Nationals just cannot accept anymore. He was sent down last year right after the deadline, in which I was pretty upset about. I'm not going to lie. But also, this is just what Luis Garcia is at this point. And after yesterday's contest, this is the full quote from David Martinez. Quote, and this was again after Luis Garcia just got picked off and it just wasn't good. Quote, that's dumb. I mean, it really is. You shouldn't get picked off there, you know? So I'll talk to him about it tomorrow. It's no outs. We get to start our inning. He gets on base for us, and then he gets picked off. That can't happen. It can't. But like I said, we got to move on from those mistakes like that. That could take us out of potentially a big inning. The writing is on the wall for Luis Garcia. The Nationals sent him down because there was a lack of preparation last year. You have that quote out there after David Martinez already kind of called him out publicly, saying that he needs to see a little bit more from Luis Garcia, and he does that just about 24 hours later. What are you doing, Luis? It's not going to click here in Washington, D.C. It ain't going to click anywhere, unfortunately, because you have been given every single opportunity to run with the second base job. You've got the talent. You've got the approach. You've got the hit tool. But ultimately, it just has not come into fruition yet, because when something else takes a step up, like your bat, then your base running takes a step back. Your defense takes a step back. All the different things, it just hasn't been able to click all at once for Luis Garcia. So maybe, just maybe, David Martinez kind of put him out there publicly, kind of saying his name a little bit, will have a little pressure up to him. Speaking of young guys that we may not get to talk about all too much, there's a stock up for Jose Frere. Jose Frere, this left-handed pitcher for the Nationals. And when I was down there at spring training, number one, people really kind of sleep on how big this guy is. I'm not saying height-wise, but just kind of his stock. He's a big, stocky guy who is just kind of meant to be a relief pitcher. Going forward with Jose Frere, I'm not saying he's going to be some big beast for this Washington Nationals team. But also on the other hand, I would not be surprised because he throws three pretty solid pitches, and he saw it last year a lot. He was majorly just a four-seam fastball, mixed in his changeup, and as well as threw a slider every now and then. He's going to have to add a fourth pitch to that, but so far, he's been really good. 4 innings pitched, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts, and 1 hit. I think he's going to be a pretty big part to this bullpen. And again, he just turned 24 years old a few days ago. This is going to be someone in which the Nationals can kind of build around in that back end of the bullpen. I would not be surprised if you see Jose Frere really take up a big role and kind of replace Mason Thompson, as he's going to be on the shelf for the 2024 season after recovering from Tommy John surgery just last week. I think this is going to be a real thing for the Nationals. Jose Frere, watch out for him. He's going to make the opening day lineup in 39 appearances last year for this Nats team up in the majors. It was really impressive. And I think going forward, you could probably expect a lot of good things from Jose Frere because he hasn't really been walking guys as he was last year. He's been getting some swings and misses. He's only allowed 1 hit. Some people would say that was lucky because he's had some hard hit contact off him, but Jose Frere, keep an eye out for him, as I think he's going to be a mainstay in this Nationals bullpen moving forward. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there. Hit that subscriber button. But next, let's tell you guys about Eddie Rosario, as Eddie Rosario is going to be an intriguing name for this Nats team. But what did Davey Martinez have to say about Eddie Rosario moving forward? I'll tell you guys after we talk to you about our good friends over at Amazon Fire TV. And if you just want a destination for sports or live games and highlights to in-depth analysis, let me tell you guys about Amazon Fire TV, because Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, because Fire TV offers amazing viewing experience with smart TVs, as well as a Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And trust me when I say this, I've got a Fire TV and I am ready for the college basketball tournament and as well as opening day here in Washington, D.C. So I want you to get ready for it with Fire TV, because Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention there's great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day. So we are free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. So as Eddie Rosario signed a minor league deal with the Nationals that can get him up to $4 million with incentives, with a $2 million base salary, according to John Heyman, Eddie Rosario is going to be an intriguing name, because you've all known the name for his NLCS MVP run back in 2021 with the Braves. He's an impressive guy. Eddie Rosario is a fun baseball player. All the Braves fans chanting, Eddie, Eddie, back in that run. This is a good signing overall. We kind of discussed it a little bit over the last few days here on Locked On Nats, but ultimately, I think Davey Martinez said it best when asked about Eddie Rosario just a few days ago. Quote, he's a threat. He can hit. He knows how to play the game, but he plays the game the right way. The only thing I really like about him is that he runs the bases well and he plays really good defense. And like I said, he can put a jolt in the ball and help us drive in some runs. He's a good left-handed hitter, so I'm looking forward to watching him play. Eddie Rosario, now again, the reason why he's signing a minor league deal with the Nationals is number one, the opportunity is there for him to have a good season, but still, you kind of know what to expect because 2023, it was relatively average, in which, again, you are signing someone to a minor league deal to a team that needs talent right here, right now, in order to try to compete. Eddie Rosario is going to provide that because last year, his OPS plus was exactly at 100. He is a major league average hitter, for which someone who played 142 games last year, hit some home runs as well, had 21 home runs, his longest since there's most home runs in a season since 2019 with the Minnesota Twins. You can kind of look back and say, if Eddie Rosario just gives us a little portion of what he can do best, hit for a little bit of power, be in the middle of the rotation, kind of show the younger guys how to run the bases, especially after what you've seen from David Martinez, what he has said about Luis Garcia. I think this signing of Eddie Rosario, not to say it's directly at Luis Garcia, but it's to help guys like that. Having that proven vet in your clubhouse who has won a World Series, who has been a main culprit for a World Series team, having him get in this clubhouse, teaching the younger guys, and especially, listen, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about Eddie Rosario, but I'm going to trust Davey Martinez's word for this. The Nationals, they need to get better at base running. Davey Martinez is going to be taking the reins of that this year. He's kind of proud of himself in that category. He really wants to see this team be better at base running. Eddie Rosario is going to help in that factor. Obviously, Davey Martinez sees something in his base running, having getting from first to third. No one has really done that since Ryan Zimmerman here has been one of the better base runners in Washington, D.C. C.J. Abrams is solid, but even at times, he can be a little bit better. I think Lane Thomas is a really solid base runner at times, but even then, he could be a little bit more aggressive out there. Having someone like an Eddie Rosario kind of being that defensive, also kind of hit tool guy who's going to be a good clubhouse leader in the Nationals in Washington, D.C., it's going to be a good factor and really just a good overall signing for this team moving forward. It's not just about the now. You don't necessarily need Eddie Rosario to be this 20, 25 home run guy with good defense in left field. He's going to play all three positions at some point this season. That's just the way that he is. He's going to play left, he's going to play center, he's going to play right. And at this moment in time, I would not be shocked at all if you're seeing Eddie Rosario being your starting left fielder on opening day. It could be Stone Garrett if he's healthy enough, but at this moment, I'm going to take a bet and say that it's going to be Eddie Rosario, and that will be your starting left fielder. Not Jesse Winker, not Alex Call, not James Wood, unfortunately, not Dylan Cruz, not Robert Hassel. It's going to be Eddie Rosario. I think Davey Martinez, the reason why they signed him at this point in time, they need a veteran presence. They need someone who can kind of take some of these younger guys under his wing. And when you have James Wood, when you have Robert Hassel coming up, when you have Dylan Cruz coming up, having that veteran kind of guy is going to help. It's not going to hurt whatsoever. And again, someone of his talent and really what he can provide, who knows? Maybe he gets hot. Maybe you trade him at the deadline for a semi-decent prospect, to say the least. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there. And of course, catch me over on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Search Ryan Clary 11 there, and that is where you'll find us. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.